In this video, I'm going to show you 3 powerful sales and marketing strategies that you can use right now and will immediately increase the impact of your message, the effectiveness of your marketing, and the results of your sales. If you have a business, work for a business, or sell anything to anyone, this will help. So let me show you how it's done. To see just how powerful these sales and marketing strategies are, we first need to take a look back. Way back to 1964, when a series of paintings were put on display in an art gallery in Sweden, claimed to have been painted by a previously unknown French artist by the name of Pierre Brasso. The paintings, well, as soon as they were put on display, were immediately met with praise, astonishment, and excitement. One critic even wrote, "Brasso paints with powerful strokes, but also with clear determination. His brushstrokes twist with furious fastidiousness. Pierre is an artist who performs with the delicacy of a ballet dancer." Pretty good compliment for a newly discovered painter. And so critic after critic praised Brasso's work and were convinced this previously unknown artist from France would take the art world by storm. It was only a matter of time before the whole world knew of his greatness. The only problem was that Pierre Brasso was not a French painter. Pierre Brasso was a monkey, a chimpanzee to be exact. A monkey who had been given a set of paintbrushes and then left alone to paint whatever he felt like. 4 of his best paintings were then selected and put on display at the Gallery Christine in Gothenburg, Sweden. The experiment was designed as a way to test whether art critics could accurately tell the difference between true avant-garde, modern art, and the work of a monkey. Apparently, they could not. Only one critic claimed that only an ape could have done this. So how could this have happened? How could otherwise smart, sophisticated, and experienced art critics be fooled into thinking that these paintings were in fact fine art, produced by an undiscovered talent? More importantly, what do the results of this experiment mean for you and your business and your ability to make sales? And the answer to those questions can be found in 3 different psychologically based marketing principles: packaging, priming, and prestige. I'll tackle each of these in order, but first, there's something important to understand that ties all of this together. The world is a loud and confusing place. This is why our brains need to use a number of different mental shortcuts known as heuristics to help ease the cognitive load of making decisions and evaluating information. What's interesting though is that these mental shortcuts all take place subconsciously and instantaneously without anyone ever noticing. Motivation, persuasion, influence, and their evil cousins of propaganda, manipulation, and coercion, well, they all play on these mental shortcuts in order to get someone to think, feel, or act in a certain way. This is how the experimenter was able to get otherwise smart, sophisticated, and experienced art critics all to praise the paintings of a monkey. Marketing, when done right, is a powerful and almost unstoppable force. So let me unpack the factors at play that led to such an incredibly successful hoax, both to arm you with the tools to do good and equip you against others with less noble intentions. And it all starts with packaging. When most people think of packaging, they think of physical products, maybe a box, a bag, or whatever else a product arrives in. But in marketing, packaging represents all of the elements that go into creating an initial impression of an offer. And the packaging and presentation matter just as much, if not more, with services and intangible offers than they do with physical products. Part of the success of Brasso's acceptance by the critics was the packaging and presentation of his offer, in this case, his paintings, to his market. In this case, the critics. These were not drawings just plastered up on a kindergarten classroom wall. The paintings weren't being sold on a busy tourist street, and they weren't random pictures tossed together without any thought or vision to their presentation. Rather, they were painted on canvas, presented in an art gallery, and hung alongside works from other artists from England, Denmark, Austria, Italy, and Sweden. Nothing there would indicate or give even the slightest suspicion that these were anything but truly remarkable pieces by a truly remarkable artist. Packaging, presentation, and appearance matters. Next, let's look at priming. One of the ways our brains make sense of the world around us is to use a kind of mental filing system that allows us to organize our knowledge into different categories. These different categories, or files, or mental shortcuts are known as schemas. And we have schemas for pretty much everything. For example, I could introduce the concept of trying something new and really liking it by telling you a story about the time I thought I hated eggplant, but then how my friend made a recipe with eggplant, and not only was it okay, but I actually loved it. Well, this story activates the schema of being more open-minded or adventurous by showcasing a time I was willing to try new things and then changed my opinion on a subject after being presented with new information. This is powerful and happens automatically and instantaneously without you even knowing it. Let me give you another example. Participants of a study were exposed to words associated with seniors and older people like Florida, retirement, and bingo, and were then observed as they left the study area. What's interesting is that the subjects that were exposed, or in other words primed, to the words typically associated with elderly people, were marked as leaving the study area slower than those study participants who were exposed to neutral terms, or in other words, terms that didn't trigger a schema of elderly people. And this is what priming is all about, using stories, giving examples, and presenting information that primes your clients to think, feel, and act in a certain way by triggering different schemas they already have in their minds. The experimenter behind the Pierre Brasso painting hoax knew this, either intuitively or overtly, and he triggered a schema of an undiscovered French artist and all the associations that go along with it when he presented the art to the critics. The result is they had to believe. Everything in front of them was pointing in one very clear and very obvious direction. What they were looking at was art at its finest. But it gets even more powerful than this when you start to combine not just packaging and priming, but also one of the most powerful psychological persuasion switches of all: the desire for prestige and increasing status. The drive to acquire status and prestige is hardwired into our natures as human beings. The drive to elevate one's status is why kingdoms and empires are built, how brands are able to command often obscenely high prices for otherwise commodity goods, and why status symbols like Ivy League degrees, or designer watches, or fancy sports cars, or other symbols of success or wealth or power are prominently displayed across all of our society. The key is finding out what kind of status is important and matters most to your market, and then connecting your offer with an increase in that status. People want things that'll increase their status and will avoid anything that threatens to reduce or compromise their current status. In the case of the Pierre Brasso art critics, their status is in having expertise, a keen eye, and insider access to this exclusive society. It's not hard to imagine the critics making their rounds through the gallery, wine glasses in hand, contemplative looks on their faces, taking in each painting and commenting on its style and influence and beauty. Another factor at play is the newness, novelty, or undiscovered aspect of this new artist from France. Our brains are naturally hardwired to release dopamine when presented with something new and unique, not to mention the perceived status increase that would accompany being one of the first to identify the greatness that is a Pierre Brasso original. Add to this another cognitive bias known as the bandwagon effect, which is a psychological phenomenon where people do something, believe something, or act in a certain way simply because others around them are doing it, and again, it appears our art critics here were all but destined to fail right from the very beginning. When faced with specific triggers, inputs, and psychologically based marketing principles, we all tend to react pretty predictably. The Pierre Brasso monkey painter worked not because the critics were ignorant, naive, or foolish, but exactly the opposite. The experiment worked because they were knowledgeable and looked at those around them, other critics who they trusted and respected, to help guide their decisions. They were informed, incorrectly and manipulatively, that the works were from a new, undiscovered, and rising talented artist from France, and everything else about the paintings, from their placement in the gallery, to the corresponding works of art also being displayed, and the other critics being present, all pointed to these works being valuable. The combination of packaging, priming, and prestige are just too powerful. And when you create marketing and messages that leverage these powerful psychological forces, your clients buy, and selling becomes effortless and automatic. But if you really want to increase the effectiveness of your marketing, there are 15 more psychological marketing triggers you want to be aware of and use in your marketing. And this is why the next thing you're going to want to do is check out the video I have linked up right here on 15 psychological marketing triggers to make people buy. So make sure to check that out now, and I'll see you in the next episode. Information are going to be taken and remembered and viewed as far more important than basically everything else in the middle. This is why, as a marketer, I'm so obsessive about the customer journey.